Hello, so I'm Jake. I'm going to be the instructor for this databases course. This is my home office. So a little about me. I am currently in Illinois. I was in Idaho. I've been on campus before. I went to school there. I did my undergrad at LC. So I lived in Lewiston. After I finished my undergrad, I started working at Schweitzer Engineering and teaching as well. So I've got about 5 years of experience in teaching. Really enjoy it, a lot of fun. But at the same time, I've had a lot of other jobs. Was on site at Schweitzer, lived in Portland for a bit, working for a company there, and then for the past couple of years, I've been working telecommute, so all online, kind of the same way this course is, just working with people over Skype, basically. Last year, kind of started my own company, working with a bunch of clients, so I've been doing that. I'm a web developer by trade. I did my master's at DePaul University in Chicago in e-commerce. So that's a little about me, my background, I guess. So this course is covering SQL. Some people call it SQL. Doesn't really matter. It's the letters S, Q, and L. If you want to read it, SQL, or just say SQL, it's no different. So you might hear both things out of me. Reason being, there's some that are called like some different databases, Postgres or PGSQL. But then some people call it like, there's another one, MySQL, but some people call it MySQL. Whatever, they're interchangeable. So let's talk about this syllabus I posted to the files section a little bit. So we're going to go over pretty much for the first 12 weeks or so in the course what we can do with SQL, kind of the commands, what they do, and a little bit of theory in terms of designing a database, and then kind of how to get the data out, how to format it, all those types of things. And then for the last 4 weeks, you guys are going to work on a project that incorporates some web language, say PHP, right? You're going to hook up a web-based language to a database backend and create a web application that is dynamic because the data can be entered. Whether you want to make a CMS or something like that, I don't know. It's not yet decided. So we'll talk about it more once we get that far in. You guys kind of have a better understanding of everything that's going on. So should be pretty cool. So for this class, this is the book that I have, which my understanding is that is not the same book as what you guys have. So I'm gonna have to get that book and change some things up here just so that it'll match up. But it shouldn't be any issue. The books kind of contain the same information, but we'll wait until mine comes in here. Should be in soon, so that I can give you guys some pages to read over and things like that. One thing I need you guys to do is to shoot me an email and let me know what systems you're running on: Windows, Mac, Linux. Reason being, we're going to have to use SSH to a centralized server that is running a database. So if you're on Windows, it's going to be a little more difficult. If you're on Mac, it's going to be really simple. If you're on Linux, it's going to be really simple. But I just need to know what you guys are doing so that I can get you proper instructions for how to get all that set up next week. So a little background here on databases, SQL, all these types of things. So the whole idea is that you just want to be able to store data somewhere that you can then access it, look up things in it quickly. Think, for example, if you're a bank and you need to store transactions, right? Whether that's as simple as my bank account where I need to store deposits and withdrawals, or if it's the entire banking industry, right? They're all backed by a database. So if we think about the simple one, what's, I need to just keep track of those things. So you might think of it mentally as, like an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe that's how you do it now. Um, if you're tracking your money, maybe you have a ledger within your checkbook that you write in all your deposits and things like that. That's basically what a database is. Um, just records data and then allows you to look it up and kind of run some stuff over it later on in terms of functions to make reports or whatever you want to make from it. So it kind of started, you used to store things in flat files, text files. They're not very useful. So people decided, hey, well, let's make databases and store them in there. And then we can write languages like SQL and do a bunch of fun stuff. So that's kind of the background. We're going to be looking at a lot of data this semester, creating it, pulling it out, looking, what if I only want this part of the data, or what if I want this from the data, something like that. That's the main point of SQL, to, run reports on data. So that's databases. When I say the word schemas, I talk about schemas a lot. Schemas are just kind of how your data is laid out within a database, and we are going to talk about it in here. I don't know if it's been talked about in this class in the past, but we are going to talk about it solely for the reason that there's a lot of people out there who they understand SQL, they know enough to be dangerous with it, but if you ask them to make a database, they're very poor at it. We are going to make it so that you guys are very good at making databases, that you understand kind of the philosophy in terms of how things need to be done and why they need to be done that way. So we'll talk about that more in the coming couple weeks here, and then we'll hit it again later at the end of the semester after you've seen a bunch of databases that you didn't create, just so that you could kind of, we'll start you off, you'll learn to create them. You might make some bad ones, that's fine, and then we'll show you a bunch of good ones. Then hopefully from that you'll have the understanding of why some things are good and some things are bad. So in this class, as I just mentioned, there's a lot of different database backends. You might have heard of them. There's MySQL, MS SQL if you're a Microsoft person, Oracle. They're the $1 billion elephant in the room. There's Postgres, which is what we're going to be using in this course. There's these new databases, if you want to call them that. There's NoSQL, there's Hadoop, there's Redis. The last three that I just mentioned aren't relational databases, so we're not going to touch on those. We're only going to touch on relational databases here, just because the other ones are key data stores. You can do them within Postgres. So we might see them a little bit. They're nothing special. I'll say that. They're designed a little differently than relational databases for the sole purpose of being very fast. But they're basically just a really simple relational database. So the reason we're going with Postgres is, maybe you have a background in MySQL. Maybe you've seen that before, used it with PHP or .NET or something like that. We're not using MySQL because MySQL doesn't properly allow us to do a lot of the things that need to be done. In terms of keys, foreign keys, things like that, when you set them up on databases, you need them to actually work, and MySQL ignores them all. MySQL also has some weird database types, InnoDB and things like that, that they do some strange things. So we're just going to go with Postgres. There's no database types there. It's all the same type of database. It's a relational database. We just got to make sure we're not using Sloaney for indexing, and everything will be fine. So we're going to use Postgres, and I'm going to set it up on a server. You guys are going to SSH into it and access it over command line. You'll also be allowed, I think, to use the GUI after a while, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So Postgres, if you want to look it up, Postgres 9.3 or 9.4, something's the latest version. I'll set it to run that so we can get all the latest features and cool things like that. So that's kind of all I've got here for this intro today. Let me know what systems you guys are running so I can properly make the instructions for next week. And then once I get my book in, hopefully by tomorrow or Friday, I'll get some reading assignments out there. Nothing big. Just not. We'll cover it in the videos anyway. So from here on out, videos will probably just be screen caps of me doing things. Makes it a lot easier when you guys can see exactly what's happening, and I can walk you through it. But SQL is pretty straightforward. Nothing to be scared of. It's just telling instructions to the computer in terms of, hey, go get me this. Don't show this part of it. It's very, very logical. There's not a lot of thought that has to go into it. It's I want this data. How do I get it? What would I tell someone if that was what I wanted? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So shouldn't be anything too difficult going on in this course. If there are, however, feel free to reach out to me. I work telecommute. I work crazy hours. I'm 2 hours ahead of you guys. So shoot me an email whenever. If it's 1 in the morning, I'm probably still working. So go ahead and send it. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, which might be 5 minutes. It might be the next morning, something like that. But I will get back to you. So just let me know the systems you're on, and that's all for this week. Thanks.